Bada bing, bada boo.
Reese Jones is every San Francisco tech guy's dream situation. He creates a company, sells it to Motorola for $205 million. He starts his own venture capital firm, and Reese Jones has a look. I feel like he would be cast as an extra in Game of Thrones and not necessarily a role that a lot of people would make thirst traps over on TikTok. He's got crazy graying hair, a gray beard, he's got kind of a stocky build. He's an old looking guy.
People searching for symptoms of their body was able to predict pancreatic cancer.
So of course, part of the dream for the SF tech guys is looking like that and then dating a younger, hotter, fit, blonde woman who is open, who is experimental in the bedroom. He is living the f***ing dream. But something really crazy is about to happen to Reese Jones. Soon in court, it's going to be revealed that Reese Jones likes to be leashed up with a collar around his neck like a dog, being walked around by a young woman half of his age like a little dog, eating out of a dog bowl on the floor. But before that, he's going to be kidnapped. It's Friday morning. He's going to be walking down a sidewalk in San Francisco, and not even like the bad part of San Francisco, because he's a multimillionaire. He lives where all the other multimillionaires live. But a car is going to pull up, 3 men are going to jump out with a gun, grab him, throw a pillowcase over his head, handcuff him, strap him to the backseat of the car, and like the movies, he can't see anything that's going on outside thanks to the pillowcase, but he can feel his body, and his body is swaying from side to side in the back like they're going down some sort of winding road. And now he's being pulled out of the car. He still can't see. The captors, they're escorting him up a flight of stairs. What do they want? Is he about to die? It feels like he's about to die. And it kind of sounds like it too. I mean, if Reese had to imagine the song that would play as he climactically meets his death, it probably wouldn't be Mozart's Requiem. But that feels a little too on the nose. Or maybe that's perfect because that's blasting. I mean, the captors, they are spending time and energy to set the ambiance of his death. Mozart is playing on the speakers of the warehouse, and he has been taken into this massive building where he probably is going to die. They take off the pillowcase. He feels something cold on his forehead. It's a gun. And a face comes up real close. Are you prepared to die, Reese? Next thing you know, Reese is being placed inside of a coffin that's about to slide shut, and this is it. Like, this is really the end. All that work, creating the massive tech company, exiting, becoming richer than anybody really needs to be, all for what? To die listening to Mozart, and it's muffled because he's trapped inside this coffin, and the lights go out. And when Reese opens his eyes again, the coffin is open, his eyes are adjusting to the light, or maybe it's heaven, I don't know, and there's an angel. Standing dressed in white, standing above the coffin. Is this freaking for real right now? Brother Jones, hell is not just a location in the universe. What does that even mean? It's a location in your mind where you relive your sins. Follow me. It's like the Scrooge. Reese gets up and is led through different rooms of the warehouse. 7 rooms to be exact for the 7 deadly sins. The first one, lust. Women, lots of women, dressed up as a schoolgirl, a cop, a nurse, a maid. There's piles of intimate magazines, Playboy, Penthouse, all over the floor. There's TV screens filling the room, all playing X-rated scenes. Reese must now fondle the woman. The angel encourages him, or demon, I don't know, okay? Go ahead, collect the sin of lust. And then the next room is greed. Reese is forced to lay down on a bed filled with money, and angels show up piling more and more things on top of him. Consumerism, clothes, makeup, just all this trash weighing him down until he begs to be freed. And then he's entered into the next room. The next deadly sin, gluttony. He's forced to unclothe. Here, oink oink, bitch. He places pig ears on his head. He must eat from a dog bowl on the ground while caramel sauce is poured on top of him. And then there are angels, demons, I don't know. They're in the room and they're licking it off of him. Then there's envy. Reese will be bound to a chair while he watches his girlfriend, his hotter, younger, blonde girlfriend, have intimate relations with what is described as a buffet of people. She's saying unspeakable things that are spoken, like, it would have been so good if you were my boyfriend Reese, but because it's you, it's even better. And after going through the 7 deadly sins, Reese Jones is going to be reborn. alive in the human world, where he's going to be escorted to a rooftop deck, and dressed in white, just standing there looking out into the distance, is this hotter, younger, blonde woman. Who is that? She turns around and Reese will likely smile because it's his hotter, younger, blonde girlfriend. Happy birthday. All of this, the kidnapping, the 7 deadly sins, everything is an elaborate birthday present for tech giant Reese Jones. That's what you get when you're worth $200 million. And your girlfriend is the founder of One Taste, a company that helps women meditate by helping them achieve their big O's. And soon, Reese is going to be wrapped up in one of the strangest potential trafficking cases, and Nicole Daedone, a wellness company CEO, is going to end up in the same prison as none other than a peer of hers, Ghislaine Maxwell. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. They're fighting to end the immigration raids and deportations happening in Minnesota. And this episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team. And we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Today's case is really heavy in regards to CSA, SA, and to be really specific, there's going to be mentions of SA against previous SA victims, with situations where SA victims are being forced to recreate their SA experience. And a lot of them, because they're forced, it's just another SA incident, further traumatizing them. There's also going to be mentions and stories of members of the queer community being forced into situations where they are pressured into having intimate relations with genders in which they are not attracted to. So please take care of yourself. If these topics are too much, please click off and we will see you in the next one. Additionally, statements and quotes have been condensed for brevity, and all of this information is publicly available. So with that being said, let's get started. Did you know that you can only work 4 hours in the entire week? Not 40 hours, I'm saying 4 hours, and you can still get paid and live your best life. You can travel all over the world. That is what everybody who bought the book 4 Hour Work Week thought that was gonna help them achieve. It is probably one of the most well-known, most read self-help books out there. It's been translated into 40 different languages. One glowing review of this self-help book reads, biggest takeaway from the book, most of us have the idea that we're supposed to work until we're 60 and then retire and then live a good life. Tim does a great job pointing out how backwards that idea is and gives lots of suggestions for how to change your life to accommodate. He calls those who have done so the new rich. They are rich in life, which is not related to being rich in dollars. Another review, not glowing, reads, there's a chapter titled The Low Information Diet. Tim, the author, admits that he doesn't bother staying informed about the news or any other kind of current events, even to the point that during election seasons, he simply just asks his more educated friends about who they're going to vote for and then just votes for those candidates. I'm not even kidding you. He justifies this by saying how the time it takes you to know, learn things is time that could have been spent running a business on autopilot or having fun. So there's that. I mean, needless to say, over 2 million copies have been sold, and I have not met a single person who has read one of those 2 million copies and has managed to work 4 hours a week. But a lot of people love the book, and they have taken nuggets of information to apply to their lives. But what the does Tim Ferriss know about One Taste, and what does he have to do with this case? I think it is cute to poke fun at modern day self-help gurus. Tim Ferriss seems to be one of the less controversial ones from what I can see, which basically just means he has no allegations of SA against him, okay? He doesn't think women are created to procreate and populate the planet. At least I don't think so. I mean, he just seems like he's really into cold plunges, biohacking, and productivity. He's also a victim of childhood SA himself. So just before we get into the next part, I have no doubt that Tim Ferriss knew nothing about what's actually going on inside, in the depths of One Taste. I think he just
One Taste is a company.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just gets involved and makes it a bit more public, mainstream. He's one of the few people that was talking about One Taste, that made it more mainstream, that had more people talking about One Taste. And that's why we're talking about it. So with the success of the 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss starts his newest endeavor. It's another self-help book called 4-Hour Body. It's cheeky. Okay, so Tim Ferriss, the productivity guru, productively helping every single person out there feel unproductive, is going to get a lot more personal in this book, where he has this whole chapter dedicated to the fact that he's on a date with a 25-year-old yoga instructor who's hot. I don't know why her age is important, but it intrigued me, so I Googled it. He was 33 when the book came out, so I don't know if that's an age gap that he wants us to know, but it's an 8-year-old younger yoga teacher, and they're eating French food, drinking champagne, and she just blurts out to him that she's never had a big O in her life. Her entire life, she's never experienced it. She's slept with people, never had the big O.
Orgasm, right?
Yes, and he says, quote, "I've never won the Powerball lottery, but I felt like I just had."
What?
Yeah. So self-help guru decides to take it upon himself to not be, he writes, "So it came to be that I made her a drunken promise I would fix her inability to owe, not that night, not necessarily through me, but somehow." That is how he goes on a quest, a journey to talk to female O experts. And he comes across the big OM. She calls it the OM. She doesn't call it the O, she calls it an OM. The OM expert, Nicole Daedone, the founder of a company called One Taste. He reads her book called Slow Sex. Tim Ferriss writes about Nicole Daedone's book. This should be required education for every man on the planet. Another self-help guru, Tony Robbins, yeah, though much darker of a figure considering he's got all those essay allegations against him, but he says he even recommends the founder of One Taste her new book to all of his friends, including somebody who, quote, desperately needed it. Even Khloe Kardashian, in a blog post, wrote that everyone should read One Taste founder's book. She says orgasmic meditation is the key to ultimate satisfaction. Gwyneth Paltrow had a whole podcast with Nicole Daedone, the founder of One Taste, and it's all run by this hotter, younger, blonde woman, Nicole Daedone, who was a former Buddhist.
I thought I was going to be a Buddhist nun. That was the route I was headed to.
When you say hotter, young, why is it hotter, younger, blonde?
Hotter, younger than Reese Jones. But she's just a hot, young blonde woman.
Oh, okay.
And she was a former wannabe Buddhist. Who the hell is Nicole Daedone? Why are all these celebrities and self-help gurus praising Nicole Daedone? And what the hell even is One Taste?
My topic is female orgasm.
There is a library near the water in San Francisco. You can't get in because it's a private residential property. The bookshelves are probably filled with books. Perhaps Tim Ferriss's books make an appearance. Maybe it doesn't. Who cares? Nobody's paying attention to that anyway. Why would you when there's a naked woman in the room? It's kind of an odd environment. There's chairs lined up, kind of like a personal book signing at someone's house in a home library, but instead of a podium, there is a massage table, and the massage table is facing the small crowd. So it's not sideways, horizontal, where you can see the body being massaged. It's facing the crowd. And there, laying there, just full butterfly legs spread open, is Nicole Daedone. Standing next to her is a fully clothed man who looks a little proud. Because, I don't know, I feel like anywhere else you could maybe mistake this as a person getting a regular massage. I mean, she's on the massage table. There is no sheet to help cover her, but she's laying there and she looks relaxed. She looks like she's about to have a good time. And
Fully nude.
Fully nude. And he's looking like he's about to do a job well done. He says, "We're going to give you a show. It's a show, but it's a real show. You understand?" Sometimes people say things like, we teach demos and we're going to tone it down for you because you can't take it. Well, that's fucking bullshit. And the show starts.
How many people's in the room?
A handful. Less than a dozen. And he leans over and he just starts with his hands manually rubbing Nicole Daedone down there. And she's whimpering, smiling, crying, moaning, giggling, just like a whole wave of emotions that if you experience in 5 minutes, you probably should talk to a therapist about it. People say Nicole is like an electrifying orb. Like she is spreading this palpable energy, electricity through the entire library into everybody else. It's like her legs are spread open and there is this energy shooting out of her privates into the room. That's what they're saying. I wasn't in the room.
Like she's very expressive.
Yes, but it's not that. There's electricity coming out of her, honey. It's like spreading through the room and you can feel it. Someone hesitantly walks up to the massage table because it's like they're mesmerized, they're entranced by this, and they caress Nicole's leg. She's shaking in pleasure, and it's almost like she's a conduit for electricity because his body starts to shake like he's having a seizure.
Oh, a guy went up to touch Nicole's leg and he starts shaking too.
He starts shaking. Another person from the other side of the library blurts out, I feel a silvery sensation sneaking down my arms. I feel a vibration in the back of my legs. And after about an hour of that, Nicole's hair is very messy and she is smiling and the energy is thick, and she explains to everybody it's because they just witnessed her a female orgasm. And that is why she created her Silicon Valley company, One Taste. It's all about feeding female hunger. Nicole says a modern Western woman has this mantra that we feel deep in our bones. It goes like this.
I eat too much, I diet too much, I drink too much, I shop too much, I give too much, and still there's this sense of hunger that I can't touch.
The solution to female hunger is you have to pay Nicole Daedone, take off your pants, keep your shirt on, lay down, get into a butterfly position, your feet are touching, your knees are spread open, and you just have a stroker, which is a fully dressed, typically a man. They call them strokers. They look like massage therapists. They come over and for 15 minutes, they put a dollop of organic coconut lube on one finger and they manually start fondling you. It's not sexual. It's therapy. It's meditation. Om is O-M, orgasmic meditation. It's like you go to a yoga studio and instead of doing yoga, you lay there and the male stroker who is trained by One Taste comes over for 15 minutes, performs an Om on your privates. You don't even know each other's names. You don't get to know one another. You don't go to dinner first. It's a clinical service that is going to change your life. That's it. I mean, this isn't entirely a new concept. It's rumored that back in the day, women would go to their doctors and get diagnosed with hysteria, which back in the day, that could mean anything from you have a small headache to full-on psychosis. But the old school doctors would just manually stimulate the patients down there to help them relax. Which, of course, then comes the rumor that women would start going to the doctor to complain of a headache that doesn't exist because their husbands at home couldn't get them off, so then why not go to the guy in the white coat that can do it for you? Yeah, it was a whole thing, okay? But now in modern day, there really isn't much holding American women in the Western world, maybe like certain cultures and religions aside. There's nothing holding you back from self-pleasure. But Nicole says it can be better. It always can be better. And that is the gap that Nicole Daedone wants to fill. This is the same woman who, when she was just a little kid, Nicole said that she had this hunger. It was like this insatiable hunger. She's like 5. And every time she would see a woman in a miniskirt, she wanted to run up to that woman and bite the flesh of the back of the knees. Like that soft flesh. She just wanted to bite it. I don't know, she just has this crazy itch. Every time she sees a woman in a miniskirt, she just wants to pounce, bite the back of their knees. She tried it once. Her aunt told her, no, good girls don't do that. And now Nicole Daedone is giving TED Talks and lectures about how females can Om. Nicole says you can feel the stroke of the world, the whole world, in a single stroke of Om. All the pleasure and the pain and the joy and the sadness that are part of our intimate lives and our relationships and our lives in general, all of it can be felt in just one stroke.
There was a moment when I received a stroke that could never be taken back. It was a stroke where I knew that I had been returned to my birthright of my capacity to perceive and receive pleasure.
She says that when you have a really good Om session, which you don't even have to climax, you don't even have to get the big Om, you just have to sit there for 15 minutes while a stroker rubs you. it's just the laughter. It just wells and wells inside of me, and I became swollen with laughter. And then like champagne pouring over the sides of the bottle, tears began to flood me. My body was rocking. It was the first time I had experienced this sense of being so entirely, utterly uncorked. I was flooded with freedom.
So is it like a special type of massage versus like self-pleasuring? Like,
yes, she says it's very specific. It's not the same as self-pleasuring. So when you are self-pleasuring as a woman, you are trying to reach the goal of the big Om. You're trying to reach the top of the mountain, but it's about the journey. And so when we as a society, we are so focused on reaching this destination of climaxing. But she says, you know what I think a climax is? It's a crotch sneeze. That's all it is at the end of the day. It's not that important. It's just part of the process.
crotch sneeze?
Yes, it's just a blip in the radar, right? The true meaning is men, they are served all of these intimate things with their partners. They find a partner that they like, and they are meant to be served. Women, you never really learn how to feel down there. Everything is so laced with shame. Everything is laced with, I have to reciprocate. Oh, if he does this for me, or if she does this for me, I have to do it for her or him. But this is true meditation. You lay there for 15 minutes. Nobody expects anything in return. You don't have to sit there and perform and say, oh, you're so good at this. You don't have to scream and like pretend that you've reached the destination when you haven't reached the destination. And you just get to experience. And it's almost a meditative getting back in touch with your feminine state. So many people want to hear Nicole Daedone talk about One Taste, her company, and the practice of Om, that she's able to book out a 1,400 person conference hall at the Regency Hotel in San Francisco, where a lot of mid-sized tech companies hold summits and conferences. Employees of One Taste are walking around with t-shirts that read, "Powered by Orgasm." Just walking around. They're forming lines outside the conference hall. Ladies, please find your nest. Everybody find your nest. Gentlemen, walk up to the stage. Please wash your hands and find your supplies. The supplies are a pair of latex gloves, a small glass container of organic coconut lubricant, because we're not filthy animals, of course it's organic. Then women are guided to their nests. Nest is where you Om. It's a yoga mat, typically, covered with a blanket, 100% cotton blanket. The woman is to lay on her back.
Wait, this is the conference?
Yes.
1,400 people conference?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And she is to unclothe from the bottom downward. Keep your shirt on, it gets chilly. Then she is about to experience an Om for the very first time in her life. Or maybe it's the 100th time. It's going to be 1,400 people who paid anywhere between $200 to $400 for this 3-day summit. And they're all going to be Oming together. Everyone received a red card. If you ever feel uncomfortable, hold it up like a little referee and we'll stop. But nobody does.
There's 1,400 people. So
Yes.
is that 700 women?
Pairs.
700 pairs.
Yes, but a lot of men pay to get in too.
Right. But are people coming in as a couple to do it together?
No. There's actually one journalist who went in, and she was writing for the now defunct website Gawker, but she went into the conference to write about Nicole Daedone and One Taste. She was a journalist. And they were just like, you want to try an Om? And so she was like, that's not what I'm here for. And then she tried an Om.
From a stranger?
Yeah.
Huh.
You know, it's a 3-day conference. They have other things. It's not just 3 days of
But
circle jerking.
I'm sorry, how did she describe the experience, or what's her takeaway?
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into it, yeah. But it's a 3-day conference, lots of speakers, Naomi Wolf, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, Robbie Richmond. He's the former culture strategist at Zappos. I think they're the ones that do the shoes, right? They're all going to be there to speak. Brian Friedman, the producer of A&E show Intervention. I mean, the promotional website for this conference reads, "The Om Conference is a gathering of like-minded people who are passionate about exploring the power of female orgasm and everything that goes with it. Some people do yoga, some people meditate. We Om, and so can you. The regular ticket price for this event is $795, but you can purchase your ticket today and you pay only $395. That's a 50% discount. Take advantage of the special offer today. The ticket price will be increasing soon. Buy now." To be honest, it is crazy to think that most people don't purchase this ticket with the hopes of oming. And there's going to be this whole delicate dance around it because, like, what do you mean you're just going to ohm in public and people are around you and there's like another woman just an arm's throw away, and these are people that you just met. You're going to find an ohm partner in a sea of strangers? One Taste staffers are reassuring everyone, though. It's not unusual to get stroked by somebody you've only just met because it's not sexual, it's clinical. You might even get stroked by someone and then realize, I'm so sorry, what was your name again? But all of this is helping, and we have things like safe porting. So the strokers, a lot of them have been trained, or a lot of them have come to this conference and they learned how to stroke, and they will always get consent beforehand, obviously. But throughout the process, the person getting stroked, all women, are the ones leading. No men are allowed to get stroked because it's a female practice. And, if they say they don't like something, the stroker must immediately fix it. Also, the stroker is not allowed to complain or say, oh. They can only say, thank you for letting me know. And if the stroker is going to change positions or place another hand on the thigh or to start going faster, they're going to announce it out loud to the woman, such as, I am going to give you some grounding pressure now. You will feel my hand on your thigh. You're also heavily encouraged to speak out what you feel during the OM sessions, even if you're just witnessing it. So it has to be in neutral terms, though. So the stroker will say things like, the color is very coral. You don't say pretty. You don't say wrinkly. You say neutral terms because everything about this is neutral. It's not laced with, oh, well, it could be prettier or it could look like this. It's supposed to be just clinical.
This sounds like a really weird role playing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like just because you say it's clinical, does that mean these guys there working as a healthcare worker? Like that's kind of off.
It's very confusing, and like you can see, it's very ripe with the ability of abuse, these types of environments. And one person just says, watching these demonstrations, I mean, it felt like my body was getting sunburnt. And there was this soft just arrow that was stopping my breath. Other people who have witnessed watching other people get ohmed say, there was a moment where I felt like my body was a shell. It was hollow, and I felt this white substance filling up from inside of me and inflating my chest up, and it blew me up like I was the Michelin Man. The 3-day conference turns out to be a massive success. Even the Gawker journalist who got roped into doing an OM, she says, oddly, it was thrilling. Like, it was thrilling. She could see the appeal, and when she got home, there was almost like this feeling of being done from a drug binge because there was so much excitement and it was so, everybody was turned on and there was this energy, and she tried to talk to her friends about it and nobody got it. They were all like, is this a cult? Like, you're weird. Why did you do that? And so now she just felt so empty, like she was hung over from like the 3-day party of her life and she didn't know how to even operate afterwards.
How long was like that one session that she did, or all of them?
15 minutes. But
that whole thing only lasted 15 minutes.
But they have multiple sessions of 15 minutes. Sometimes during the OM conferences, they'll do 15 minutes and then they'll just partner swap. I don't know why, okay? But they'll just partner swap and then there's just a new stranger and you're doing another 15 minutes.
Huh.
One woman says, just the idea of like dropping my pants in front of a stranger, I actually almost left. But then at the last minute, I basically was like, fuck it, I'm here, I'm gonna do the thing. And once she did it, she said,
I was like, that was amazing. Like, that was incredible, terrifying, and incredible. And then all I knew is like, I want to do this again.
Another person says, after my first OM, I felt baffled, confused. It didn't really feel like self-pleasuring or anything I'd ever experienced before. It didn't even feel like... It was just something new. I wanted to scoff at it. I wanted to brush it off and explain it away, but I had to admit that something unexplainable was going on, something great and unexpected. During the group sessions, one former participant says, it was just crazy to hear how many different sounds that the women around me were making. It just felt incredible. I just felt really good about myself in a way that I never had before. Others say that they skipped doing the OM with a stranger and just had an OM with their long-term partner. And one woman says, at first, I would always rather have been, I'd rather have an intimate relation or do something for him that would make him feel good so that he would like me more. And it was very challenging for me to just lie back and feel. I had this fear that when we were OMing, he would realize he didn't love me, but the opposite happened. I've never been able to trust a relationship this much in my life because now I don't have to guess how he's feeling. I can feel how he is feeling. One staff member told a participant, "I watched you Om, and you sounded like an orchid blooming for the first time in 150 years. Another person says, "Listen, it's not even that intimate, okay?" She says, "During and immediately after the Om, I had a sense of energetic movement in my limbs and the core of my body. I felt more relaxed, more alert at the same time, more clear-headed, cleared my brain fog, gave me energy. It's better than coffee." Another says, "I would rather stay in a cave and Om for a week than go on an all expenses paid trip to Paris. I just kept wanting to do it again and again and again and again and again." One woman burst into tears at the end of the Om session, and Nicole Daedone walks up to them. "Why are you upset?" "Because I don't want this to end."
These strokers, are they doing do they have different trainings or?
So some of the strokers have different trainings. The employees of One Taste, they paid up to $100,000 themselves to learn coaching classes to how to become master stroker. That is the top level strokers, a master stroker. And they work for One Taste. And then at these seminars, most of the people that are doing the stroking, they're just people that paid $200, $400 to come to this 3-day conference, and they just spent the past 24 hours learning how to stroke. And now they're performing their first stroke on a stranger.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. Joanna Van Vleck is a very successful businesswoman. She started the Trunk Club, where you get your own personal stylist to send you clothes via a trunk every month. Her company sold to Nordstrom for $350 million. And she is now here at the One Taste conference. Van Vleck says about One Taste and Oming, "At first I was like, this is gross. I was ultimately scared. It's vulnerable. Sometimes I still lay down to Om and I'm like, what the is this? If there weren't such incredible benefits, I would not lay down and have a man stroke my genitals. I just wouldn't. But Om is fuel, we call it, tired and wired. Most women are tired and wired, and Om is the exact opposite of that. It's like eating breakfast. That's what we eventually hope. Instead of a latte, women will have an Om, because that is what regulates your body. An Om for breakfast, One Taste is the Whole Foods for sexuality, the organic, good-for-you version. The overarching thing, Om, is just part of the wellness. Everybody starts clapping. Next on stage, enter another big name in the business world, Robbie Richmond. He was the former Zappos culture strategist, very successful. He's a very well-known guy. Tony Robbins was amongst his client list. Anyway, he gets up on the stage and he says that One Taste told him, "You need to get your beast out of you. We got to get the beast out." And everyone starts clapping like, "Yeah, get the beast out of you." And in order to do that, they told me, "You got to turn the heat up." People are clapping, "Yeah, you got to turn the heat up. That's how you get the beast out." I was in therapy for 6 years for anxiety. And he says, "Nobody ever suggested to me that maybe you're just turned on." Everybody's clapping, the crowd's going crazy. They're screaming and cheering like, "Yeah, you're just turned on." He says at One Taste, they helped him more than 6 years of therapy did. Quote, "It wasn't just intimate relations, okay? It wasn't just that. I went into the room with this girl and I had this desire to just rip her limbs off."
What's happening right now?
Suddenly the cheers stop. It was interesting because I felt it all. She felt it too, And the interesting thing was I was barely touching her. Ooh, that... Everyone is like, "Okay, what?" He continues, "It was this feeling like religion." And as a person who studies culture like me, that's one of the highest echelons. Religion involves the full body, the full spirit experience, and it's got its articles of faith, the principles of Om that blow my mind, principles that apply to life, not just orgasmic meditation and this lifestyle I'm starting to see. It resembles a monastery, except rather than deprivation, it's acceptance, it's desire, pleasure, freedom, it's connection. The cult-like rhetoric right after dismemberment fantasies was very hard to digest for the crowd. I will say there were multiple awkward moments during the 3-day conference where everyone is like, "Ooh, maybe this is not what I signed up for."
Was this recorded or?
There's lots of archived articles about this, as well as some small recordings, but not much.
So what is he doing there? He's a stroker?
Yes, he's a firm believer of One Taste. A lot of huge...
So how does that help him though?
Oh, yeah. What's in it for the men? We're going to get into that.
Okay.
There's a whole what's in it for men. Just you wait, okay? Now, One Taste marketing is focused on being tight. Pun intended. Tight around the edges. It's about marketing OM to be as friendly for the masses as possible. So dismemberment fantasies, that's not as marketable, okay? One Taste has all the markings of a cult. They even have communal living buildings where a lot of One Taste members and employees will live together. Nicole used to live there. A lot of One Taste members still live there. They call it the warehouse. That's where they eat, breathe, sleep One Taste. So they usher him off the stage and they continue with more speeches. And it just feels like minus the dismemberment talk, a legitimate tech conference for a startup. Later, when asked about the cult allegations, Nicole Daedone responds, if I were a person out there and I heard about a group of people who were living together and were doing this practice where they were stroking privates, I would probably think the same thing because I wouldn't have any context to understand because there is no context for connection in our culture. There's no context for any kind of female pleasure. There's no kind of context for sexuality within a rigorous practice. These things, as far as I know, have never really been explored skillfully. Anytime it's been explored, it's just been sort of on the fringe. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely wanted to bring it to the mainstream. One of the reasons why I want to bring it there is so that we have checks and balances. Really, the model is Wikipedia, where everybody gets access and everyone puts their part in. Not literally. She says the whole arena of female pleasure is so dark and weird and scary, and it needs to just be out. It needs to be out in the open.
Cult leader corrupted by money and power. I just want to say that's patently not true.
Nicole Daedone is a very interesting kind of woman. I mean, I will say that she is a pretty charismatic speaker, more so back during the prime of One Taste. That has nothing to do with youth or looks, just like the prime of her career. She writes in her book, Slow Sex. When I first tell people I make my living teaching the art of slow, intimate times, I get to watch an entire weather system cross their face in a matter of about 5 seconds. First, I see surprise, then curiosity, then embarrassment about their curiosity, then fear that I can see their embarrassment, and then finally, courage to proceed. You know, I teach a practice called OM, I tell them. It's a way that any man can bring out the big OM in any woman in just 15 minutes. Nicole says, I teach people that OM is really no different than when my Uncle Bob taught me one summer afternoon when I was 12 years old.
You're kidding me.
Of how to really taste a tomato. Nicole says she grew up in California. Her uncle becomes a wannabe tomato farmer. And the first basket of heirloom tomatoes, he shows up at her house and is like, hey, sister, Nicole's mom, you got to try my tomato. And Nicole's mom is complaining, Jesus, Bob, they look deformed. Are we really supposed to eat that? Because heirloom tomatoes, they're like all the rage now. They weren't back then. Uncle Bob takes a big, juicy, lumpy heirloom tomato with a wart and all out of the basket, bites into it like an apple, and there's just tomato juice dripping down his chin into his beard. And then he pushes a fresh heirloom tomato at Nicole's mom. Nicole's mom is like, absolutely not. He gives it to Nicole, who hesitantly, curiously, cautiously, nervously takes a bite of this tomato, and she describes it like any 12-year-old would describe their first experience on ketamine. She says, rich, earthy, dense. Words a 12-year-old has never spoken. The taste of minerals, where previous tomatoes had been porous, spongy, common. This tomato was pure saturation. It was as if the tomato itself had a built-in speed limit. It was not possible to eat it quickly and forget about it. This tomato took command. There was no mistaking it. This was a tomato.
She wrote that in her book? Or?
Yeah. My uncle asked me what I tasted. I couldn't speak. I didn't want to break the spell. What you taste, he prodded, as if he were a blind man asking me what I saw. I wanted to sound very smart to impress him, a difficult task when what you're describing is a tomato. It tastes warm and a little sour. It's kind of like when you lick a penny and it tastes like metal and you feel a sort of a jolt. But at the end, it makes your mouth water. It's sweet, but not candy sweet. Sweet the way skin smells. Soft. Said no 12-year-old ever, okay? But she says her uncle was proud of her and put his hands on her shoulders and gave her sage life advice that she will always abide by. Nicole, the most important thing you will ever do in this life is really really to taste a tomato. Eventually, Nicole grows up. She's in her 20s. She's living her dream life, but she feels horribly empty on the inside when a friend approaches her with exciting news. She is going to take a course on intimate relations. Nicole says, I was momentarily scandalized. That was something good girls like me didn't talk about. But then I was curious, then embarrassed at my curiosity, then a little bit afraid, then a little bit courageous, and I signed up for the class with her, and that was the beginning of the rest of my life. Quote, if Uncle Bob had been there, he would have been smiling. Nicole says it takes a lot of time to get into the practice of Om. You know, you can be not good at being an Om. Like, you can lay there and you're not doing anything, but you can still suck at it. She says, we women may be tempted to default to old habits of augmenting our experience, reassuring the stroker that he's doing well by turning up the volume, breathing, moaning, moving in ways that may not be entirely genuine because you're trying to make them feel better about themselves. But of course, this all takes practice. Nobody gets their first Om right. Many women actually report that they prefer not to reach the big Om during the Om because they've come to enjoy just the massage. It actually increases their sexual energy, whereas traditional intimate relations with a man is all about, getting rid of this excess energy. You feel pent up, you release the energy. But Om is the way that we can build up the energy within ourselves. And people always say, you mean I can actually use Om to generate energy? I can actually use it to increase my capacity? The answer is a big, enthusiastic yes. Om gives us the opportunity to refill our tank.
So far, it sounds like a lot of things she said is, well, you're encouraging women to...
Yeah.
Right.
And I think she's about, at least on surface level, her messages seem on par with female empowerment. She says things like, the real question isn't whether women should have power, but what is power? And how does it express itself through the feminine? That is not a question society has ever been eager to explore. For centuries, feminine power has been misunderstood, feared, suppressed. Nowhere is this clearer than in the way that we treat women's sexuality. Feminine sexuality has been framed as unruly, dangerous, chaotic, a force to control, manage, and hide and fill with shame. And all of this is why we need to Om. So this is how it goes. A stroker applies grounding pressure on the woman's legs while maintaining eye contact with the woman's down there. The stroker then narrates what he is seeing in neutral terms. A lot of women report that they started crying once their strokers started narrating how their down there privates look in neutral terms because they've only heard it in very sexualized terms.
Interesting.
So they've only heard it in very objectifying terms, or in terms of like, well, it could look better so that it could be better for other people to enjoy. Versus just like, hey, your thing is kind of slanted to the left. And they will say that. And sometimes they cry because it's a very crazy revelation. This is not a compliment, nor is it a judgment. It is just a factual observation. And then a thumb and index finger get placed on very important spots, and the pressure is as strong as the weight of 2 pieces of paper, almost like a tickling sensation. Then there's a 13-minute timer, and the final 2 minutes are spent grounding, slowing down so that they can come back down from the high of the experience. 15 minutes is important because a lot of women have reported initially when they first start Oming, anything longer than 15 minutes makes their head very cloudy. They don't get mental clarity. They get very confused. And I will say there's a whole silliness to this whole thing because you're doing some of the most intimate acts with a complete stranger in a conference hall filled with more strangers, with the goal of it being more clear-minded, promoting longevity and mental health. And there is a huge stress placed on the fact that you need to have 100% organic cotton blankets as well as fully organic coconut substances to rub. So like, how is this feminine power, empowerment interrelated? So first of all, getting to know the female body is very important. Getting to know your own body and to be serviced without the need of servicing others in return, she says, is very important. But also, on top of that, she thinks women need to be horn dogs.
Okay.
So, like, basically the underlying message after I have read, I want to say at this point, I've read 4 Nicole Daedone books that she published, that she wrote. I've watched, like, over I want to say like 30 hours of footage. They have a whole YouTube channel with podcasts where they just yap to each other. She has multiple different conferences that were filmed. I have watched almost
She's still doing this today?
Well, no, because she's at MDC Brooklyn in prison right now. But she was doing this for a very, very long time. And I had to consume all of that. And I will say, this is the underlying message, is women need to be horned dogs. They need to be turned on and they need to be horned up. And she says that's how you get things that you want in life, because that is your greatest power as a woman. That is your greatest energy, is to have turned on energy. And men will just bend over backwards and do whatever you want if you have turned on energy. This is your only power as a woman, really. So you need to harness that power and stock up on the power. It's like you're battering up when you're oming, you're charging yourself with this power. She says, my challenge as a woman is that fundamentally any expression of appetite is shameless. I'm supposed to be small physically. I'm supposed to be small in expression. I'm supposed to be demure. If I have too big of an appetite, then I'm, I don't know, money hungry or a gold digger. Although, you know, those things aren't the more challenging desires that women have, or I'm greedy, or I'm all the things that we think women are who have any kind of appetite that makes us go to the other side and pretend that we're demure and we have no appetite. So as a woman, when desire arises in me, the shame silences me. As a man, when desire arises in you, it gives you a lot of gusto. So we need to do that. However, the biggest clientele for One Taste seems for the longest time to not be women, but to be men.
I wonder why.
Exactly. And it's very hard to cater to a male clientele in a place like San Francisco when all you do is say, hey, women are better than men. It's very hard to have men walk in and pay you money. It's a very small niche group of men who still will do that. So Nicole then starts catering to her male demographic.
Wait, so she literally started a company to do these sessions, group sessions. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. Her whole startup business.
Yes. Then she headed into the wellness space with podcasts, books, you know, coaching sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, she became one of those online course gurus.
So like a lot of like tech founders, tech people?
Yeah, a lot of tech guys would go because when you're in San Francisco, you're in SF, and you have a bunch of software engineers who are probably very intelligent, more intelligent than I will ever be. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't put myself down with these guys, okay? But they have not touched a woman because they spent a greater part of their lives studying.
Right. So there is an appeal for
yes.
certain demographics.
So they all show up. And that leads to a very big problem in One Taste, which is how do you get women? Right. How do you get women for these paying men to stroke? And that is partly the reason she is in prison right now.
When I'm hearing this, right, it sounds like, yeah, I can see how some woman does want to solve these problems. So it makes sense. But then when you say all the guys are joining, I guess reality is that you can say whatever the hell you want to say. People are just going to come in with their own.
I know what you're trying to say because everyone has been thinking it. People are going to come in just trying to see a vagina, basically. We could say all these things and make it pretty, but ultimately the main clientele are just dudes who want to see a body part.
Yeah. The question is, most women, are they here for the reason of what she's promoting?
From what I can tell, after all of like the rabbit holes that we've gone down from One Taste, if I had to break up their clientele and who's joining One Taste, is you have a large group of guys. Older, younger, doesn't matter, all probably from the tech space, primarily in SF. Wow. And they don't know how to talk to girls. They've never really known how to make a girl feel pleasurable. They don't know anything. So they go here almost rather than like a pickup lesson. They go to this course. And then you have some older guys who genuinely think that it's a great meditative practice. Or you sometimes have like a huge group where couples, but they don't really stay in the One Taste sphere for long. They come trying to spice up their marriage. They learn the techniques. They do like a one-day course, and then they go home and then they apply it to their home life.
Right.
And then you have a group of young women. A lot of these young women seem to come from a little bit more vulnerable backgrounds. A lot of them have been essayed, and they don't know how to feel comfortable with their bodies. Wow. And Nicole convinces them that she is the path and the light. And these young women end up becoming the biggest commodity of one taste.
Right. That's what I feel like. They are being taken advantage of.
And then you have older, wealthy women who are just, I don't want to say like the men, but they kind of fit in that sphere of they give one taste a lot of money, and they also want very young, attractive male strokers. And they're here for the pleasures of one taste.
And she probably knows all of these.
She knows everything.
So she's playing 5 different games with different people.
Yes. And she knows exactly how to talk to whoever she's talking to.
Now,
Yes.
in terms of the payment, like these tech guys or whatever, is it all the same amount that she charges? Is it monthly or?
Okay, so it's $10 for a one night like get to know each other session, and you don't own. It's like a $10 mixer. There's cocktails, there's fun. It's like a community event, that a lot of people will go to. And this is so manipulative. I'm going to go into it more later, but they have something called the hot seat. And these are people, again, that this clientele that they're attracting, a lot of people that are coming to this mixer, they're not typically, and I say this with love because I'm not a very popular person either. I don't have a ton of friends. They're not popular people. So they sit down in this chair, and all the One Taste employees put their attention on one person for like 30 minutes. And this one person feels a high, because usually when they try to talk to their coworkers, they try to talk to people, everyone gets distracted halfway. They're looking at their phones. They're just maybe not the most entertaining people, but for 30 minutes, they had 10 people just captivated by them. And in the very back, there's a salesperson taking notes down of every single person's biggest insecurities. They'll ask you during the hot seat, they'll ask you, what do you want? And then you'll say, I want to be successful in life. What do you want? They keep asking you, what do you want, over and over and over again, until it boils down to your biggest insecurity and your biggest desire in life. And that salesperson in the back is typing it all down in a laptop. Then you leave. After paying $10, you leave. Then they call you. And they say, hey, didn't you have so much fun last night? Well, why don't you come back for a one-day course? Instead of $10, it's $200, and you can spend like 8 hours with us. It's like, okay, $200 is not that bad. They go, pay $200, they learn how to stroke, or they get stroked, they do OM sessions, and they have such a high because this is so exhilarating. Anything taboo is gonna feel very exhilarating. It's gonna feel like drugs because it's against societal norms. Right. You don't just like go to a yoga studio and see a bunch of naked people and like touch a stranger.
Yeah. By the way, the hot seat is do they force you?
They have marks.
Oh, so they're looking in the room. They're like, I want to target that new client.
Who looks like they have money.
Oh, it's always a wealthy person.
Yes. Or someone who has like a pretty cushiony tech salary. Because you can tell. It's like when you are in SF, it's like, hey, what do you do? I work here versus I work at Meta and I'm a product manager. It's like, okay, maybe this person has a cushier salary.
Yeah. So, okay. So they're converting these people.
Yeah.
I see.
So then you have a $200 day course where you learn how to stroke, and you're so like exhilarated from this experience. And before you can leave, you get signed up for a $3,000 weekend course. And then you've already invested $3,000 and the weekend is so exhilarating. Then you sign up for a $16,000 week-long course. Then you sign up for the master coaching program that's $60,000.
$60,000.
There are victims who are like $100,000 in debt.
In debt?
And they are considered employees of One Taste, but they don't learn how to be an employee of One Taste for free. They're in debt.
That's why they call it a cult.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she starts catering to the men as well. And she'll meet in the middle. She'll say things like, women are trained to see men as projects to fix men, right? We're taught that men are dumb and fundamentally these bumbling guys, and they need us to fix them. But what ends up happening is then all of a sudden you hear these women who say, I feel like I'm a mother, I'm mothering him, and then they lose their turn on. They lose their turn on, and this is like a noun. They lose their turn on. And so we begin to worry about guys. Oh, he's not feeling good and all these things. And they're usually just projections onto them rather than lighting up the kind of turned on masculine power that they need. She's got these very weird takes that she'll do during these one-day seminars. This is how she ropes in the masses, because when you go in too strong, too fast, it's a lot. So she'll slowly lead the men in. You know, I meet so many fantastic women who are smart and sexy and witty and charming, and women with charisma and who work a 10-hour day and then throw a dinner party for 8 without as much as a nap. I mean, women, it seems, who can do anything except find and keep their man. They watch the man that they desire fall desperately in love with women who aren't as smart, who aren't as sexy, who wouldn't know the first thing about choosing the right wine to go with the chicken. Women who have accomplished nothing at all with their lives. Why her? And when the men come up here and they start talking about their feelings, and women ask this question, they are momentarily stunned by the men's response. It's simple. The guys point out the woman they go for is the one who is nicest to them. So she starts encouraging all the women in the class to be nice to men. Start with one moment of genuine appreciation and feel your way from there. She says, you know, at the end of the day, men, if you're listening to this, women only want one thing, which is, quote,
I don't know.
competence. No, I'm just kidding. It all comes down to one sweet request. Be more you. That's it.
That's crazy.
Show yourself to us. It's all we've ever wanted.
So,
no
okay,
woman
this
ever.
is like straight up tailoring to the guy.
Yeah, because every sane-minded woman listening is like, that's actually like on the bottom of the list, okay? We just want you to know how to do one thing, one chore around the house, do the dishes, do the laundry, don't leave your socks outside. I don't know. Women were like, I will say the comments were crazy on this one.
What do you mean comments are crazy?
This is like after she goes to jail though. A lot of people are like, yeah, okay, well, that's actually f***ing insane. Tell that to the prisoners at MDC. Yeah. It's just kind of not what a lot of women want. It's a little pick-me energy. I don't know how to describe it. It is what women want. Yes, I want my husband to be more him, but I also like want the world to be better too. Like it's not that easy. And a lot of people have a hard time wondering why men were going to one-taste seminars. This is why. Also, some men say they were never in relationships and they don't know how to talk to women. And so Nicole will guide them through it. She'll say things like, tell her that tonight you will use her body like a magnet. Every part of her body is going to come alive. One former male member says, one of the exciting things about the organization was, you know, compared to men teaching other men how to relate to women, you got it straight from a woman's mouth. Nicole would break down the dynamics of relationships. The man dilemma, what happens for men. They get all these ideas in their head about how to get access. So first of all, the idea is you're entering the conversation with a separate sense of self. I don't know what she's talking about. The most powerful thing you can do is get in rapport with another human being. That's what is. You're syncing up nervous systems on a biological level. When you sync up nervous systems, these magical doors open and you won't know until you have the experience, and then you will know. There's all these programs that are put into men about how to get a woman. First of all, tends to be precisely what blocks you. You may get the body, but you won't get the woman. You won't get the goods from that. She says, look, women want to have intimate times as much as men, just not what's on the menu. She likes what's on the menu, which is regular intimate times. She's just not hungry for steak every day. Women crave variety and surprise and spontaneity. We want a seasonal menu, a specialty menu. We want items that arouse and nourish and satisfy every part of us. It's basically that TikTok about wanting omakase. Okay, that's what she's saying. Women have as much intimate energy as men. It just freezes more easily. You know, women have less of, it's because we get frozen from body image. We're turned on. We're just frozen from body image. Previous relationships, something her dad said to her when she was 11. And by the time that you meet her in her life, she may be so iced over that only a trickle of that desire is getting its way through the ice. Without regular access to the warm heat of a big ohm, the freeze gets deeper and deeper until she has no more access to get her desire at all. But really, a lot of the testimonials from men that have joined One Taste, it's all about the finger. One person says, quote, I was really surprised to discover how much energy I could feel coming through my finger. I hadn't really believed it was possible. Some just say it helped their relationship. Quote, since we've been practicing Om, my girlfriend is so much more turned on. I cannot believe how different it is to have intimate relations with a woman who is truly, fully turned on all the time. And it just feels like Nicole is playing both sides. She tells women it's all about them while she caters heavily towards the men. And if Nicole is anything, she is a walking contradiction. And maybe that's her appeal. Before Nicole becomes an Om coach, she was ready to become a Buddhist monk. Nicole was ready to join the Zen monastery in San Francisco. The only thing that she said that she would miss doing is doing it. I'm not kidding. So like any normal aspiring Buddhist, a monk, she does the same thing. She decides, I'm gonna go out on a 1-week binge. I am going to go to the craziest parties in all of SF, and I'm gonna just like do everything and do everyone, and then I'll never do it again. I'm gonna be a monk, okay? She's gonna do it all. It's at one of those parties where she's looking to do things that she runs into this guy named Erwan. And he's at this party, so naturally within a few minutes, Nicole tells Erwan her dilemma. She wants to be a Buddhist monk. She thinks that life will be really good for her, but she's also kind of like horned up all the time, you know? And he smirks and he tells her, I would like to introduce you to a practice that I've been doing. He introduces her to a practice that will soon become One Taste signature, the Om, but back then they called it the DO, the deliberate O. So after her first taste of a DO, where it's basically the same thing as an Om, Nicole ditches the whole Buddhist monk life and makes Om her entire personality, her entire life's work, until she ends up at MDC Brooklyn in the same prison that Diddy was in, the same prison that Luigi Mangione is in, and the same prison that Ghislaine Maxwell was in. A few weeks back, a family friend was rear-ended. She kept hesitating about calling a lawyer because she didn't want to seem like she was making a big deal out of nothing. But here's the thing. If you've been injured in an accident, you should not let assumptions prevent you from going after fair compensation. Your recovery, your family stability, your ability to pay bills and move forward with your life matters so much more than maybe I'm being dramatic. Morgan & Morgan is the largest law firm in America, and they've successfully recovered over $30 billion for their clients. And when it really counts, they don't back down. Their team includes over 1,000 attorneys working across the country, giving them strength and resources to help you get your life back on track. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous, but hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. If you've been hurt due to the negligence of someone else, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. Just click the link in the description below or visit forthepeople.com/rotten. That's forthepeople.com/rotten, or dial pound law 529 from your phone. This is a paid advertisement. One of the most controversial things that Nicole Daedone has ever taught was nobody is a victim. Nobody's a victim. Nicole says in a training session, so I have a story. And I am no victim. The problem with the victim story is it takes away your power. You know, I was talking to one of these women and I did a women's group and they were like, oh, I'm so scared to turn on because of all of these terrible men who are gonna R-word me. And I said, if you wanna know the real way to deflect R-wording,
It's to turn on 100%, because then there's nothing to rape.
not only that, but with my experience is that a woman turned on 100%,
Has every single man around her bowing.
you know how we have those powered by orgasm t-shirts? This is gonna be our new t-shirt. I got R-worded and all I got was a victim story. I know.
I got R-worded and all I got is victim story.
And she's like smiling into the crowd. She's like, I know. People are shocked. They're gasping in the crowd. And she's like, I know, this is crazy. Or it could be like, I R-worded someone and all I got was a perpetrator story.
You picture, what are those? Stick in a river and it just keeps pummeling up against something because it doesn't have a natural way to flow. That's really the experience of what we call perpetrator. My experience is that it is a pure love.
So she doesn't believe in rape.
No, she believes it happens, but she thinks it's psychologically deeper than that. Like the fact that men R-word, she doesn't think it's just like these men need to be locked up and like snip, snip. She thinks that it's also kind of a woman's fault that men are out here R-wording people. She's also saying through the power of Om, her meditative practice, and paying for her courses, of course, you can protect yourself against R-wording, not because people are going to stop R-wording, but because there is nothing left to R-word, so how can they R-word you? I will say that there are still very wealthy people connected to One Taste and the original group, even though they seem to keep changing their names. They also seem quite litigious, which I've never been opposed to a little legal scuffle, especially the idea of seeing a ton of the people that we talk about in a deposition. I think that would bring me a great sense of adrenaline and excitement, and it would just make my week and year. But just so that we could be extra cautious, I do have to note that these are just allegations moving forward. Nicole Daedone is sitting at MDC Brooklyn, but she hasn't been charged of these crimes outright. She has been convicted of forced labor conspiracy, which does include sexual labor for the defendant's benefit, as well as coercion of performing sexual acts, but it doesn't outright include essay.
Wait, so again, what is she charged for again, you said?
Forced labor conspiracy, which
Okay.
means that you're running a company and you're coercing your employees to perform sexual acts. You are having sexual labor for your benefit as the employer. However, she has not been convicted outright of facilitating essay or just essay in general.
Does she have a case pending or?
No.
Oh, so this is it.
Yeah, this is it. So these are just legally speaking, just allegations as of right now. Though I don't personally think a lot of netizens question any of the victims' stories. In fact, a lot of people wish that she was charged with trafficking instead. But this is, I think, just like the ways that the laws are set up. So with that in mind, let's talk about the darker side of One Taste. Have you ever heard of aversion therapy? I feel like there's so many different therapies. There's exposure therapy, there's now aversion therapy. And it goes something like this. A guy named Mark from One Taste is really, really freaking upset. He feels like he's a victim of, honestly, he doesn't know how to put it into words. Okay, well, Mark. Try to put it into words. Mark tells everyone he's really upset because two girls from One Taste barged into his room and offered themselves up to him. They were like, can we just do you? And they both start going down on him down there, like both of them at the same time. And they're like, okay, so that's essay if you didn't want it. And Mark is like, okay, but here's the thing, I did want it. Like at the time I loved it. It was great. It was phenomenal. Okay, so what's the problem? Okay, the problem is afterwards, I overheard the girls talking about how Mark was their aversion therapy. The girls were told by higher ups at One Taste to find the most disgusting, filthiest, ugliest animal on the planet and then have intimate relations with him. Like find the person where the idea of that person, even the visual idea of that person is gonna make you wanna throw up, bend over and vomit into a toilet. Go find them and have intimate relations with them. Aversion therapy at One Taste is when you do the most disgusting thing you can think of in an attempt to get off on it. Yeah, it's putting it simply, it's a lot more twisted and complicated than that. One Taste coaches, the amount of aversion you have equals the amount of desire that's there. Opposite sides of the same coin.
What?
The coaching program would say, our preferences are just repetitive devices that enslave us in eternal mediocrity, but we're usually too chicken shit to step into a different terrain. Basically, why do you think you're so turned off by something? Perhaps it's because you're actually so turned on by it, but mentally you don't want to accept that idea that this is something that you like.
And I said, what I learned as a woman is that we have it backward. I'll have all of these circumstances and then I'll get turned on. And that really it's the reverse. Whether or not you're turned on, build the circumstances and get turned on in the process, and then that's where you get total liberation.
One former member describes it like this, and this is potentially going to be a controversial statement, but in a certain way, for people who have closed down, it's like you get that fix one way or another, right? So if you determine you don't want that fix in an explicit way. So they're saying like, maybe you've convinced yourself or society has convinced yourself that watching X-rated videos is disgusting, it's vile, it's morally corrupt, right? Then you have a tendency to then go and get it by sort of a mental fixation on it. So you develop these strong, super strong anti-X-rated video fixation that becomes your life's work. You're protesting, you're writing blog articles on it. It gives you a way to engage with this thing that you kind of really need. Basically, aversion is unpotentiated turn on. Explore it today. It's described more bluntly by one member who says basically, it was, quote, a broad term for energy by performing intimate acts that you don't want to do or doing them with people that you find disgusting. Like, that was just aversion therapy. There's nothing deep about it. Officially, they start referring to it as unconditional sex. And One Taste starts leaning heavily into this. Higher up members of One Taste start giving out assignments to those underneath them. So this is like your manager at work telling you, you have a new assignment. These assignments typically revolve around doing everything possible to get rid of your aversion to certain things, acts, or people, just obliterating any sort of personal boundary that you have. One former member was told to have as many intimate relations with random people that she found to be super disgusting and ugly that she ultimately did not want to have intimate relations with. But in 200 days, they forced her to have intimate relations with 200 different men. And this was presented to One Taste members as a high achievement. She has reached a new level of connection and being turned on. It should be noted, I will say legally, that One Taste claims that everybody was into it, everybody consented, nobody was forced into an assignment. Quote, members who chose to explore their aversions did so voluntarily and were never pressured and incentivized. The activities were always suggestions and not instructions.
If they declined, many women told me they would be shamed for having a, excuse my language, golden pussy. So this idea that they were shamed for being too picky or being like, oh, you're being really uptight, you're being resistant. These are all terms that were used to reinforce this idea that like it was more expansive and more enlightened if you could say yes to things that you didn't want.
But they would also have these seminars where Nicole would get up there, or another higher up at One Taste would get up there, and they would just look so prim and proper. Something we play with at One Taste is perhaps no means not right now. So the best thing I can tell you is keep going and know that if she, the woman of your interest, is still on your mind, even after she brutally rejected you out of the blue, and you can't believe it, she might still want you.
So Nicole is just coming up with these.
Yeah, Nicole, she'll wake up and have a new idea, and then all of a sudden it becomes the new psychological method to become more connected. Connected to what? Each other, within yourself? I don't really know. I mean, at some point, she just sounds like she is my late grandmother who had Alzheimer's. Like, the ramblings are just nonsensical. One former member says you would have situations where you would have to have intimate relations with X amount of people every week, even if you didn't want to. Or some people were assigned to do a BJ every day with a different person, even if they didn't want to. I mean, basically giving assignments and teaching members that they should ignore their own personal preferences and boundaries, and that if they can't even trust their own boundaries. They're just lying to themselves. You are lying to yourself that you don't want to have intimate relations with Mark. So if you're constantly lying to yourself, who are you going to trust? Well, you're going to have to trust Nicole. And this is what Nicole has to say. We human beings have a universal tendency to loathe what is in our best interest, always. And Nicole believes that aversion therapy mixed with oming is the cure to trauma created by SA. She's like, basically, this is her message. Look around. Everyone has SA trauma. It seems like every woman you meet is so Okay, why is that our fault, right? But she's like, look at all these women that you meet. And guess what? They're still traumatized. They're still miserable. They still don't want to ohm. They don't feel comfortable in their bodies. So what we're going to do is we're going to do ohms so they can get comfortable in their body. And then we're going to do aversion therapy so they can get over the trauma of their SA. She's like promising to sell freedom to the most vulnerable people.
Yeah, so this quote-unquote therapy target audience is SA victims.
Yes. She says, we know experientially trauma is just stuff that's stuck in the body that needs discharge. So in a sense,
the more trauma you have, the more potential for discharge you have. It's awesome. So all of you that people we have tremendous potential.
How do you get the trauma out? Nicole says you ohm a lot. Whatever is in there begins to come out. You don't make it come out. You create enough heat that it becomes to come out naturally. When it begins to come out naturally, you ensure that you don't block it. She says that you have to release all of this trauma, or else when you're in the positive version, okay, or the negative flip side that most of us live in, which is trying to avoid danger, that keeps you in a place where danger keeps happening. See, danger doesn't come towards the thing that have agency, that have the capacity to send energy out. Danger comes when danger comes, when it perceives that there's something that will receive it. She's almost insinuating that victims are asking for it because they put out the type of energy into the world where they are inviting danger. She says, in terms of protecting our bodies, when I say this, it's controversial. People don't like it. But in many, many, many studies, they really wanted to understand what had some people be assaulted more than others. So what they did was they spoke to assailants, abusers, violators, and they said, how do you choose who you go after?
I go after people who feel like victims and people who don't seem to be aware of their surroundings.
And second thing, there's a certain kind of righteousness that people have. Everybody will mess with you nowadays. There's trolls everywhere, but there's a kind of righteousness.
Where you have communicated that you will not back down no matter what.
What? What does that mean?
She's just saying, if you are turned on and connected through copious amounts of Om, then you will be stronger and more confident, and you will carry yourself with an energy that's like, hey, I don't f around. One survivor of childhood SA who joined One Taste, she was inspired because she said that she always had a hard time connecting intimately, which is obviously like a part of trauma when you've been through childhood SA. And she said that because of that past trauma, she meets Rachel, who is the head of sales at One Taste. She's like Nicole's right-hand woman. She's the only other one that gets charged by EDNY, the Eastern District of New York. Yeah, it's very complicated. Also, the reason that a lot of people have not heard about this case as much, I think, is because it actually started trial May 2025, exactly when Diddy's trial started. And it was almost like concurrent trials of very similar rhetoric, of very similar things happening. And then ultimately, she got it worse than Diddy. And she put out all these statements about how this was a gender disparity, this was the double standard for women. Yeah. And it was like, no, wow. I think that jury pool was just ass for Diddy's trial, but whatever. My opinion doesn't matter here, right?
Like, how many people is in One Taste at this point?
Oh, gosh. Just their high membership that was costing like $16,000, they sold close to 2,000, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then that's just the people who paid for that tier of membership. There were so many people who came in for months at a time, took day courses. They were spread out all over. They opened up locations in New York, Texas, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Like, they had locations everywhere. Her whole dream was to make it like Yogurt Land, Menchie's. She wanted franchisees all over the United States.
When you go in, it's just like a big yoga room.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. But most of the cities, they didn't even have yoga rooms. They just had communal living.
Once they open, people are living there.
Yeah, it would be interesting. So they would find a collection of people that were really into Om, and then they would open up their own One Taste headquarters in each city. And it would just be like a giant house that everybody lives in.
It's a residential house?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Or it'd be like a commercial/living space. It really depended on the place. And a bunch of people would live there. It would be communal living. And One Taste, for the longest time, they were the ones signing the leases. Eventually, because of all of the SA allegations that started coming out, Nicole was like, I don't want to be on the lease anymore. She doesn't care. It doesn't seem like she cares that people are getting SA'd within her organization. She just doesn't want to be on the lease because there's legal liability. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And then they start creating Om moms. Om mom, M-O-M, like mother, right? They would be the ones in charge of each location. So it's kind of like strip clubs have moms, that's what they call it. Where you're like in charge of that location and you take care of all the girls there. But they would do that with One Taste.
So crazy. What?
Yeah. So they had locations in every single major city. Yeah. Like, this was a full-fledged business. It's crazy because it sounds like a little, okay, you're so crazy, lady. You probably have like 5 employees. But no, this is like a full-fledged. They were listed on top 100 fastest growing startups by Inc. magazine at one point. So they were trying to go mainstream. Their headquarters, okay, we're going to get there. You'll see where their headquarters is. But anyway, so this woman says that she was inspired because she always had a hard time connecting intimately. And Rachel, one of the One Taste head staff members, head of sales, she's like, I went through the same exact thing and Om cured it. So she's like, okay, I'm going to join. And she joins, and her name is Aries. Aries' sister says, I just saw all the light slowly drain from her eyes. She describes it as, these people would tell her that she needed to go sleep with all these guys, or she needed to own 5 times a day to release herself from the trauma of her childhood. I mean, they would even go as far with these assignments for aversion therapy. If you didn't want to sleep with all these people, the person managing your assignment would go download Tinder, Bumble, match with random men, chat with them, and tell them, hey, I just want to do you. Find a place, find a time, and they would tell their employee basically, hey, go to this hotel at 6 o'clock. This is the man you're going to sleep with. And report back to me. This is why it's so crazy, because no one even gets anything out of that.
Right. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's not like they're going on a website for escorting in these major cities where it's like, hey, I have a client who's going to pay $200 to us. You go and sleep with them. It was genuinely just like a random dude on Tinder.
So this is like a form of control on these girls?
Yeah. It's like you make them so vulnerable and dependent. And then also a lot of victims of One Taste were saying it's almost this idea of like, they just push you to do the most effed up thing. And then once you do it, if you walk back on it, it's hard for humans to do that, because then this miserable thing that you did was all for nothing. It wasn't for growth. It wasn't for healing yourself. It just becomes another horrendous thing where you've been manipulated.
Yeah, it's even more trauma now.
Yeah, so you just keep trying to keep going with it because it can't be for nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
There's just a lot of cruel mental torture embedded in all of this. Another member says that she was assigned by Nicole to sleep with every single man that lived in their shared living quarters. She also had to sleep with this guy named Jeff, which naturally makes her freak out. And she tells Nicole, Jeff looks exactly like my older male relative that essayed me when I was a kid. So I don't think that I want to have intimate relations with someone who looked exactly like my childhood abuser. And that's the entire reason that she joined One Taste, was because of all this trauma, because of this male relative that she couldn't get over. And she says that, she can't do this. She felt out of touch from her body. She can't do it. We don't know what Nicole said to her, but she said that ultimately she slept with Jeff. And it was...
Nicole probably said this is exactly why you need to, you must.
Yeah. And she said it was the hardest thing that she ever had to do, but she did it because she fully trusted Nicole. And here's what Nicole is drilling into them day in, day out. Nicole would reiterate that the worst thing that can happen to somebody is to be a victim. She says, quote,
the worst thing that happens is that you freeze into an identity, and frozen in that identity is a very clear perception that's projected onto you.
Now, some signifiers of darkness tend to be kind of like a chaos, and we associate chaos with darkness itself. My experience is that when you're actually in alignment with chaos, it's not that dark. It's not chaotic at all. It's actually awesome. Another member was forced to recreate her essay incident. She was R-worded while her perpetrator kept telling her, you're so beautiful. So One Taste allegedly set up a situation in which she would be performing on a man, and a whole group of One Taste members would be standing in a circle around them, and they would all say in unison, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful.
How did she describe that?
She said that she was fully hyperventilating and it gutted her, but she said that at the time she felt she needed to push through because she was told over and over again this would be her final breakthrough. So imagine she's like at her breaking point, I imagine, of I can't do it, like nothing's helping me get over this trauma. And people are saying, trust me, this works. Why else would someone do something like this?
My question to you is, why did people believe her that would bring them this sort of form of enlightenment?
Yeah, I believe that specific woman says that, she said yes to it because she was chasing these breakthroughs. Like there was this belief within One Taste, which definitely, came from the top down, that extreme actions, intense situations, and really pushing your edges would bring personal growth.
In another incident, it's alleged that Nicole was getting fed up with a female member's anxiety. So let's call her Ashley. Nicole hates that Ashley is anxious. So she sets up an essay session, basically. I don't really know what else to call it. That's my opinion. She pulls a guy to the side, whispers something to this guy's ear, and is like, hey, go ohm with Ashley. She's like whispering. Ashley sees this. And then the guy walks up to Ashley and is like, hey, Nicole wants me to have an ohm with you. So they go do an ohm, and the man starts doing things down there that are not part of an OM. And Ashley did not consent to it, but she says she couldn't voice out no because she didn't want to disappoint Nicole. And she saw Nicole talking to him, so she just assumed this is what she needed. She said, I totally disassociated. I mean, it was really damaging. It felt like being R-worded, and yet I didn't tell him to stop. It's not even just re-traumatizing SA victims, but it's also encouraging them to be victims repeatedly in new various settings. For example, part of Ari's life at One Taste was to let her boyfriend beat her. And this was like a common reoccurring thing. She wrote later in her therapy journal that she sent to her sister, whom she shared this with Netflix. She writes, I woke up today filled with rage. Rage at my boyfriend, rage at he punched me in the face, and he split my lip and bruised my eye. At first I was shocked, and we had fought so many times before, I never thought he would go that far. I found little sympathy. This, I was told, was my fault. I forced him to do it. His beast was only fulfilling what my body had asked him to do. Since I was a survivor of childhood domestic violence, this was my pattern and what my body was asking for. He was only doing what my body asked. And now I was shaming and blaming him for doing what I had asked. I looked around the room at One Taste. All eyes were downcast. Nobody was willing to stand up for me. I never spoke again about the other times he hit me or dragged me around. Looking back now, I can't believe I stuck through it. I so wanted to believe he would change. I was told that sometimes our soulmates must do violent things to help us grow. It was only a way to condone violence. They did not want me to, 1, go to the authorities, 2, have my boyfriend leave and take his money with him. This evening, this community member let his beast out. He picked me up, pinned my arms to the side, and began to shake me in front of everyone. Nobody did anything as he screamed at me how he would like to R-word me, beat me, use me, that he knew where I slept and he would find me in the night. I was reprimanded afterwards for showing fear in the face of a beast. A true turned-on woman would have taken his beast cry for help with grace and love.
So what is this guy's behavior? Is this just a violent dude?
Yeah. I mean, these are all...
So this wasn't part of the quote-unquote therapy that they were all doing together.
Nicole had actually joined multiple cults before she started One Taste. So Nicole was part of, well, okay... You know what? I don't think they're that litigious. Okay, there's 2 cults. There's Morehouse
and an alleged sex cult from Lafayette, California. It's officially known as Lafayette Morehouse, that the group uses intimidation tactics to keep members closed up behind purple doors.
And then there is another cult, which seems a little bit scarier, but both of them, they were all doing deliberate O's. So they did the thing before OM. Like, she took OM from their practices. Remember, she met up with the guy at the party before she wanted to become a Buddhist, apparently. And then he was like, let me teach you something. And that was a deliberate O. So that was the practice. And both of these organizations were run by 2 different men. And these men were just basically cult leaders. So they would have this thing where they would invite other men to join, and then they would all just like beat the woman there, beat them into submission. And they would say things like, well, I'm only beating you because you're asking me for it. You didn't say it verbally, but whatever you did in your actions and the way that your energy is translating to me, you asked me to beat you. And you can't get mad at me for doing what you asked. And Nicole, she's so psychotic, okay? But apparently she took a lot of pride in the fact that no man ever beat her in these cults. She's special, yeah. So she then puts this practice. I guess it attracts a lot of men. And it keeps men staying because they feel like they're being seen as the masculine, violent criminals that they want to be. I mean, I'm not saying all men are attracted to this type of practice, but I'm saying it's a very specific type of men who are going to want to stay longer in environments like this.
So has she said anything to the men? Like, what does she say to men who try to SA women?
She thinks that they're all just big little crybabies.
What does that mean? Like, if a man wants to SA a woman...
She thinks that they are dealing with a lot and that they probably have a beast in them that they were never allowed to express that caused them to do this. She thinks SA is very complicated. She thinks a lot of men have shitty times in society which lead them to SA people. In another situation, and this is confirmed to some degree by One Taste, they've been aggressively denying all wrongdoing and everything else, but there's this incident where one executive of One Taste just repeatedly started slapping his girlfriend in front of company employees over and over again during a fight. He was fired and then promptly rehired. One Taste says the incident itself was unacceptable. However, they rehired him because they believe in rehabilitation, but they firmly stand that they do not promote or tolerate violence. Someone needs to send Nicole a dictionary. You'd have to send it to MDC Brooklyn because that's where she is. But I don't think she understands what words are. Nicole didn't just hate the idea of victims being traumatized and not wanting to feel danger and having natural fear responses and PTSD of being put in unsafe situations. She hates that we have this notion that perpetrators are bad people.
And my experience is that when you get to the root of what's called a perpetrator, that's what exists there. It's this unbearable desire to love through all of the terribly, terribly inaccurate methods that they've been given.
Does that make sense? If you picture those sticks in a river and it just keeps pummeling up against something, it doesn't have a natural way to flow.
That's really the experience of what we call perpetrator. My experience is that it is a pure love. My experience of, we'll call it the victim, is a desire for pure release, pure surrender, pure freedom.
Also, if you just need another reason to not listen to Nicole, she says as proof that chaos is the only way to grow, that you have to be in a constant state of chaos to actually achieve a higher purpose. That's the key to enlightenment. This is an actually unhinged woman. One former member says that 2 members were caught fighting by the manager of the company who told them to leave and don't come back until they've both done it with each other. One former member says, the whole point was, quote, if you're having really very strong feelings, negative feelings about somebody, have an OM with them. They say OM is very different from sex in that we don't wait until we're in the mood or turned on. Rather, we use OM to turn us on, to stroke our desire, to awaken our libido. So we take it on as a practice. We may set a regular time. We even OM in the middle of a fight because we know as much as we hate our partner right now and want nothing to do with them, 15 minutes from now, we're likely feeling a lot better and the conversation will go very differently. I genuinely think that she needed a way to control a lot of the members, but also up the ante nonstop. I think she got off on keeping people in a heightened state of anxiety and emotions. Her ex-husband, because she was married at one point, long ditched him before One Taste becomes big. But the ex-husband says Nicole actually had this thing where she was fascinated by what she could get people to do. Sometimes she just wanted people to do things just to see if she could get them to do it. She's not even getting anything out of it. But if she's hey, go jump off the roof, she got pure joy, allegedly, from just watching someone listen to her like that.
That's the control thing, right?
Yeah, just loves the control because none of this makes sense. A lot of the times when you have traffickers, they either find a lot of sexual enjoyment in the exploitation or they get financial exploitation. Eventually it does become financial for Nicole. But all of this, it doesn't make any sense. Why spend so much energy and resources of all of these people doing these assignments, meeting people in hotels from Tinder, forcing them to do things with each other that they don't want to do?
Is she also doing all of these things as well? Oh.
No, she probably says she is, but she's not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So she's not doing OM or whatever.
As OM gets bigger and bigger, the more powerful One Taste becomes. She is the only female stroker. She stops getting stroked. In fact, a lot of people who left said she used to OM with them a lot and eventually she just stopped asking for OMs. Yeah.
Why is that? Interesting. She's trying to set herself apart now?
Yeah, she was told by a previous cult leader that the leader cannot be too close to the pack because that's how they get eaten alive. Yeah. No, she's very sick and twisted because the next thing that she starts encouraging people is to employ skillful violation. Members of One Taste are taught that they need to learn how to discern when to push past someone's stated preferences for the sake of that person's growth, not even for yourself. If you had to be forced to make it sound legal, it would be, it's a moment of connection where you know that what this person deeply desires. They know what they deeply desire, but they're too ashamed or too scared or too nervous to tell you, so you just go ahead and do it to fulfill their greatest desire. One member describes it as, you're not really violating what she wants, you're violating what she says she wants.
So like full on SA.
Yeah, like a very roundabout way of just describing SA.
So what is consent? Is there consent to them?
No, there's no such thing as consent,
no
it
means
seems.
not right now. Is that what they
Exactly. Oh, there's this whole thing where if a guy is attracted to a woman, she says no, but he still feels attraction. It's because she's putting out signals. So she might not even know that she's attracted to him, but he should keep trying because something is clearly there. He would not feel attracted to a woman unless the woman is sending out these signals.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, so what if a person is quote unquote attracted to Nicole then? Can she say no?
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing ever applies to Nicole. That's crazy. And she also is like sitting in there complaining about jail.
From Metropolitan Detention Center, Brooklyn, from a dorm of 37 women in beige uniforms in a room of gray metal bunks and bright fluorescent hours.
And I think that she should just work on staying connected with her fellow cellmates. It's very weird of her. This is all made even more tricky by the fact that Nicole says that the main difference is that a lot of men think that women don't want to have intimate activities. That's like a whole thing in society. It's like women always say, no, I have a headache. No, I don't want to do this. No, I'm tired. She says, do not believe us. If we say we don't want intimate relations, we want it more than you guys could possibly fathom. We are quite literally starved for the feeling of O's in our bodies, but we haven't been given permission to discover the unique sensations of our own O, so we don't know how to order what we desire. In this, we need your help. Skillful violation relies on at least 3 pillars of belief. The first being the women are meant to explore and delight men. Nicole says, once you see that, everything changes. And the thing to understand is this, okay?
I'm built to delight. And so my natural desire is to say yes.
I don't know what she's saying. She's just saying that like women have a natural desire to please and to say yes. And second, that women have been suppressed for so long that they need men or other women who are more turned on to guide them to their deepest desires. Furthermore, women are the ultimate responsibility for everything. So this is where it gets sick and twisted. Nicole realizes the past 2 cults that she was in, they never made it mainstream because a guy sitting there telling you about how women can be empowered is the dumbest thing alive. No one's going to buy it. Women aren't going to buy it. You're not going to end up on the cover of Forbes. You are only going to do that if you're a woman telling women what they need. So she sells this message that women are the most powerful beings on the planet. We're more powerful than men, okay? But with power comes great responsibility. One former member says, one taste was encouraging women to appreciate the predatorial nature of male sexuality. Because basically, Nicole is saying, women are the ones emitting these signals. Consciously, subconsciously, we're telling men to catcall us, basically. We're like sending out the vibes. We're sending out our aura and our energy. And then they are acting on it because they can't resist the energy of women.
So she's saying everything is your fault.
Basically. Yeah. Which is like not really female empowerment. She would say things like, men are just responding. It all starts with the woman. They are the cause of everything. And she would say things like, we have to understand that with equal rights comes equal responsibility. And women aren't willing to take equal responsibility.
How is she like sharing these messages?
She's so good about it. If she has a lot of new members and they're very basic, regular, schmegular tech bros and tech couples that come in, it's very watered down. It's the PR package of, we just want women to feel connected to their partners, to achieve connectedness within, and to feel empowered to do more exploratory things in the bedroom. And this is how we're going to reignite the steam in your relationship. And then once people get more and more in, she starts upping the ante. So aversion therapy, skillful violation, these are things that she would tell people that we know that this works, but it's like being a wizard, being a witch. That's what they called it, okay? The muggles out there would want to burn us at the stake if they knew what we were doing. But that's the magic. like only the people who know and see the magic have the magic. So we can't go out there and talk about it with the muggles.
She said, "This is you're listening to me, but don't tell this to anybody."
Yeah. And they're like, I mean, she's like, you can, but they're going to look at you like you're crazy because the muggles don't get it. They would also think that normal people who don't get it are zombies. They're asleep. They're coasting through life, watching TV on the weekends, being half alive, half connected, having no pure connections within themselves or with other people. So it's like, it depends on which tier of people that you're talking about. And she's got a lot of podcasts. I will say more so in the early years, she was crazier.
What do you mean? She was crazier?
Yeah, even just like publicly, she was crazier. She would just say things to bigger classes. But then as the world gets more
mainstream for
yeah,
her?
Yeah, she starts toning it down and everything becomes like wishy-washy connected with spiritualness. Like she starts talking about Eros.
What's Eros?
It's like she pulls from Buddhists and yogis and tantric teachers. Like she starts making it kind of like more spiritual, but which I have nothing against spirituality. I think it's beautiful. It's just like hers is not spirituality. It's just like mashing together words.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. So she gets a little bit crazier.
Where do all these rituals of spirituality come from? The simple answer is sex.
She has all of this hidden. And for the first time ever, they have their big inner circle scandal. It doesn't make it to the mainstream news outlets or even to the world outside of One Taste. But this causes a huge rift inside the One Taste community because at this point, there's so many states that have One Taste headquarters. There's so many different cities. They have this online hub that you go to with all the One Taste members from New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Atlanta, Texas, and they all start writing, and there's this one post that starts going viral. She is a student who bought into the coaching program. She's probably already spent like $10,000. She's gonna stay at the communal residence until she finishes the coaching program. And she's there in Texas training for the course that she paid for. She's in her assigned bedroom working on her laptop when a trained coach, not even a fellow trainee, a trained coach slams open the door without knocking, walks up to her bed and just starts grabbing her chest. She tells him, I'm working, I don't want this, stop. He tells her, quote, I bet this isn't the worst interruption from work you've had. He leaves, but then he promptly returns, waving his finger in front of her face. I don't know, asking like, she's like, what are you doing? Seeing if you'll touch my finger. This is the beginning of your turn on. She tells him no. Eventually he leaves again and she goes to try and lock the door, but there's no lock. She's of course terrified and she writes on the forum, this is not a safe place, which is absolutely valid. One Taste seemingly was not a safe place. I mean, they have shared living spaces, communal living, and it's been alleged where at one point, a man who was convicted and let go of killing his girlfriend, somehow he's free, was allowed to join this communal living space. Another time, a man accused of essaying children was allowed to be interviewed by One Taste. But this incident causes a huge stir in the Ohm community, not in the outside world, but everyone, it's like a shakeup. You would think that Nicole and Ohm, all the executives are like, we gotta pump the brakes. But one of Nicole's inner circle executives.
So why?
Yes.
Like, why is it a shakeup? Why are people reacting so aggressively, even within the community?
I think that it was a lot of newer people in the community that took it really seriously because of course they should. And then a lot of people that have been in One Taste for a really long time and Nicole's inner executives, they start adding fuel to the fire. They don't just say like, hey guys, we're handling the situation, we got it under control. They start saying things like, look, as a woman, the easier thing for me to do is say I was violated. That way, I don't have to look at my part in it. People love the story of violation. We drink it up like water. It keeps women broken. It allows everyone else to feel good because they want to rescue women. In the meantime, we shame and blame the men for showing any signs of desire, for being creepy. It's not that men are bad and women are good. It's that I'm the one as a woman who knows how to tend to these unbelievably powerful forces that need incredible care, nurturance, strength, power, everything that a mother has. I'm the one who knows how to hold that power as a mother, not as a father who's doing his thing, but somebody who understands the ramifications of this power. So a lot of the younger One Taste members, younger as in newer, they hear this and they're like, okay, I gotta go.
So before it was all like theoretical.
Yes.
But when this actually happened within the community.
Yeah, and you have to remember that San Francisco especially is a huge hub for freedom in that aspect. So they had the Lusty Lady, which is now defunct, and actually Nicole used to work there. It's a strip club. It was the first unionized strip club in the US.
Okay.
They also have KINK.com headquartered on the same like street that all of the massive tech companies like Uber and Twitter are. Yeah, so they have huge BDSM communities. Actually, one of the communal living centers called the Warehouse, the original one in San Francisco, once One Taste left, it is now like a play dungeon where you can come in and like get strapped up to the crosses and like, you know. So I think a lot of people went in thinking like, oh, this is kind of like role playing maybe. Like, okay, yeah, I don't want it, but like, you know, you kind of like maybe it's that, and like everybody is a consenting adult at the end of the day, but
so people are like experimenting and
Yes.
learning and just
Yes.
but instead they're like, hey, if you get groped, that's
it's your
you.
fault.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of the newer members were like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so there's no consent here?
You're like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So then it caused this huge rift inside of the community. They also had something called going off the rails, which basically just means essay. And typically an older stroker will just use an ohm with a younger woman as a way to just fully essay them.
They promote that or they...
No, but they would just call it, instead of saying it's essay, you need to go to the police, they would just say, oh, he went off the rails. It's just, you're going off the rails. And it's encouraged for guys to let their beast out. So women letting their beast out means having intimate relations with as many men as possible that they don't want to have intimate relations with. And for men, it's doing whatever the they want, which is further evidenced by a male member. He's doing this introduction video for One Taste, and he's asked to describe his intimate life. And like, I think this is why a lot of Nicole's teachings start heavily leaning this way, because I think this is the community that is giving her money. He says, there's a lot of anger in my intimate life, and there's also a lot of sweetness. But with One Taste, I'm hoping to bring in even more anger. And Nicole promotes that idea by saying,
pause and hesitation are the worst, as is withdrawal. Withdrawal actually in play is cruel, which doesn't mean that you can't pause. Pause is deliberate. Withdrawal just drags another person's nervous system around. Like,
so she's basically saying, if you are in the midst of intimate relations and you're like, hey, I can't do this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, you are cruel. Don't do that. You can even just say, if you get stuck, you can say, oh, I'm stuck because my pride is here. Oh, I'm stuck because the next thing I would say or would do would make me far too vulnerable and I'm terrified of what it would mean. So if you profoundly, if you want profound erotic play, fast and smooth is the most fun. And you can only get there by continuing to move through these blocks as you go. Boundaries are blocks that you have to push through. And she says, this is back when she was in the adult entertainment industry, right? When she was working at like the Lusty Lady. She says, I had a regular and he wanted to strangle me. His beast was locked in there and it hadn't had a place for expression. And I just happened to love beast. I had to surrender so deep that I could absorb him all the way in. And invariably, all of a sudden, it hit this point and he just started bawling. And that was all. And he paid me a lot of money to just come strangle me and cry. And that was it. And we think, they're so tough, but they're just little love bugs. They're crying. They're just our little companions that want to love us.
Is she the world's biggest pick-me?
Yeah, I think so. He wants to strangle women. He is not a love bug. He is hopefully just someone who is exploring intimate interest while practicing safely, although I think that is too much benefit for the doubt. I think he could just be a criminal. Nicole continues, they're just tough because they're met with fear. Nicole's messaging is bluntly, a turned-on woman says yes more often, and that's a good thing. And we know this because let's say a woman complains. She says, there's a secret. And it's this. Behind every woman's complaint is a desire. The complaint is like this moat around her palace, her castle of hunger. No, she's crazy. Nicole may argue that my interpretation is incorrect, but those are ultimately the words coming out of her own mouth. And on that note, she even says in class that SA is a complex issue, not in the sense that SA culture exists, the justice system blames victims, that society at large blames victims. It's not complex in that way. It's complex because SA and assaulters are not just perpetrators. She says there is a rage that lives. And so you see this rage that lives in women, and we all here are fairly familiar with it. But there's a rage that lives in men that you can't win the game. She says they have no dignity. These men, they're groveling for sexless sex and groveling for a drop of anything, and that is humiliating. And that's why I say SA is a very complex thing. That's why it's complex. You have to look at the conditions of a starving person being tricked by somebody selling food that doesn't nourish yet again.
Wait, she sounds just like one of those male podcasts. No?
Yeah, no.
Like exactly the same stuff she's saying.
Yeah. She's like, fuck the girl with the list. Like she sounds exactly like a male podcaster.
Yeah.
And she also, for someone who claims to be bisexual, and I say claims not because I like to question people's sexuality, but she claims this. She fucking hates lesbians. I don't know how else to put it. One victim says she was told nonstop at One Taste. Side note, she's into women. She's not into men. She's a lesbian. And they straight up tell her to her face, if you're not hungry for COCK, you're not connected with your true inner self. All women are hungry for COCK. Even if you're gay, you're hungry for COCK. They start pressuring her to have intimate relations with men, encouraging her that if she can just contact the part of her that is hungry for the COCK, she will be unstoppable and truly powerful in this world. The stuff that is being taught, enforced, and pushed on vulnerable members at One Taste are so confusing in the sense that, I mean, later it's going to make sense because Nicole will want these members to be intimately open so that she can exploit them and have them sleep with investors for the company. That's her ultimate aim, it seems. It's downright evil, but it makes sense in the traditional way of like, okay, that's usually how we see these things unfold. People start these organizations to essentially traffic women so that they can get financial gain. But as of right now, people are like, what is she even getting out of this? What the hell is wrong with Nicole?
Do we know the investors or?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and some of them are huge names. One of them that she was courting that I don't think did anything with any members of One Taste, but she really, like they were in conversations with Nicole of investing in One Taste or having some sort of partnership with One Taste, was the founder of Zappos, who sold Zappos for like $1 billion or something crazy to Amazon.
Right. So he was talking about investing, but no allegation yet.
No, there was no allegations that he essayed anyone in One Taste. I don't know if he has any allegations. I wouldn't be surprised considering what's going on with Epstein's list. Everybody's in there. Wellness gurus are in there. Like everybody and their mom and dad is in there. So I don't know. But as of what I can see from One Taste members, they were sent to Las Vegas to constantly court him and like having these business meetings and talking about the benefits of OM. But I don't think that he was catered to in that sense. And then ultimately he did not want to because he wanted to keep a squeaky clean image. Yeah.
Really? That's his reason?
Yeah, I think he was trying to do something with Vegas where he was gonna, I don't know if he was trying to purchase, like do a development in Vegas, which it was crazy because he was basically saying that even One Taste is too much for Vegas. We're talking about Vegas.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got to keep my image if I want to win this. I think he was like bidding for a development or something.
Interesting.
And a lot of this stuff is not even particularly marketable to the masses. Nobody's going to listen to a wellness podcast that talks like this. I would say maybe like 10% of what Nicole says is like every other male podcaster. But like the other 90% is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So people start digging. What the hell is wrong with Nicole? Nicole grew up in California with her mom, and her dad left when she was very young, but he does make a reappearance in her life a bit later. By all reports, it seems like Nicole did well in school. She graduates, starts working at the Lusty Lady. I will say, a lot of Nicole's history is alleged. We don't know how much of it is accurate. She has a tendency to allegedly make up stories to fit her weird philosophies. You know those people that are like, I am going to talk about how great of a parent I am, so I'm going to make up the craziest lesson in my head, and then my kid is going to ask me, Mom, how come you gave money to that man without a house? And then you're like, I don't think your 4-year-old asked you that. That's Nicole. Where I'm like, I don't think that happened. Like, I don't think the tomato thing happened the way that she's telling us the tomato thing happened. But like, who am I to say, right? Maybe I was just a dumb, illiterate 12-year-old, but weird, okay? Such as, remember the guy Erwan that introduced her to Dio? The deliberate O before she became a Buddhist? She also changes that story. She's like, you know what? I think it's more mainstream to say that he was the Buddhist. So then she like starts changing it and it becomes more spiritual of like,
she met the Buddhist?
Yeah. Who was like, let me rub you down there. And it was a spiritual awakening. So then she just, I mean, that is evidence enough for me to not believe a single thing that comes out of her mouth. But it seems that she worked at the Lusty Lady for a little bit of time. She starts picking up shifts. And according to one ex-boyfriend of hers that was with her at the time, she gets into high-end escorting, where she bragged about how every time she was with a man, she would practice cold reading, aka trying to figure out quickly what the guy secretly wanted from her. Because when she first meets them, they would all act tough and they would all act like, you know, I'm just here because my buddy told me to be here. And she's trying to read, oh, like you want to be spanked. You want to be leashed up like a dog. She gathers, quote, I learned that my erotic power is the greatest resource that I have. Later, One Taste members would learn cold reading. They would stand in a circle with one person at the center, and people would blurt out what they see, trying to get a reaction, such as, I see somebody who has never felt turned on. I see a 10-year-old girl who's never loved, like trying to cold read and practice what Nicole would do. Nicole's ex-husband says she just would play around socially with people, mess with their heads, guys especially. A friend of mine was like, oh, she's a monster. She's a monster. You stay away from her. And of course, that led to him getting married to her because, you know, he found that very intriguing. Side note, I do think that their marriage was doomed for failure since the beginning. They get married when she's just starting One Taste. She doesn't even tell him that One Taste is based off of oming. Like, he has no clue. He thinks that she's just starting a wellness company. And she would do these very weird things where she would just treat him like shit. She would get in a hot tub with a bunch of members and then just lead him around like a dog, but the leash is the ding dong. Like, what? Just kind of like just very humiliating things. Other members, eventually, once he does find out what oming is, they just saw him as disposable. Like, he would walk into a room and there is his wife, Nicole, just oming with other people. Someone straight up called him a throwaway person. And eventually they do get divorced. But he does provide a lot of insight into her life. Reportedly, from other sources, she had her very first sugar daddy when she was 16 years old. She had a strong liking for meth. She would sprinkle meth into a tiny little square of tissue paper and then swallow the tissue paper whole. I don't know how accurate that is, but another ex of hers says she just has this energy, good or bad, but she fills up the entire room. But probably the most enlightening part of Nicole's past is her relationship with her dad. Nicole's dad leaves the family when she's a few years old. He just like leaves Nicole and her mom to be a single mom. Nicole says during this lecture, you know, my dad was a child molester. He had experiences with young girls and he used me as bait. And so that exact behavior, like, whoa, me colluding with somebody who could cause harm, I got that seed out. I got free. I could forgive everybody in that whole experience. I don't know what she's saying, right? Yeah. But I will say that Nicole probably has a lot of unresolved trauma in terms of her dad. Once he leaves the family, he starts a whole new family. He never comes to see Nicole, and she idolizes this man, thinks that her dad basically walks on water. She would do this thing where she would blast his favorite songs, sing them out loud because she thought that she could bewitch him to come drive around the corner and come visit her. He would visit very rarely, once in a while, occasionally, and at one point in college, she admits to her friends that he was essaying her when she was a child. And then eventually he was convicted of essaying other children that he had. And she says, you know, my dad died in prison for 52 counts of child molestation. And I never took on the idea that he was a bad person. I took on the idea that he was just so expansive and fourth dimensional that he couldn't confine himself into the arbitrary laws of the third dimension, that his only crime in my mind, and now other people may have different ideas, is that
what she said?
Yeah. Is that, you know, he just was fourth dimensional. She says she saw a married family guy cheating with a video actress. She saw a religious leader sleeping with, his own students. And you would use the word R word, but like she says F-U-C-K, right? And she's like, but really, what I think is happening, it's just all nature. And maybe that's another shirt. Nature happens, instead of saying like, wow, these artificial constructs kind of suck ass. And even the most excited people in our culture cannot abide by them. Maybe we should look at the laws we've created.
The laws were created
against child essay.
Right.
She also starts telling people that the child essay that happened to her as a child was her fault because she seduced her father. She says that she was so hungry for his attention that when she was 6 years old, she burst into the restroom when he was using it and declared that she loved him and wanted to marry him. And she would constantly sneak peeks at his private parts. Oh, she also says that as a young child, she would like try to climb on her dad. And she felt exhilarated by the friction of things. And then she said that even as a teenager, all of her boyfriends that she would have intimate relations with, at the end of the day, she imagined them to be her father instead.
That is some crazy stuff she's saying.
Somehow all of this gets buried. And all that makes it to the mainstream media is just Nicole's Looney Tune teachings that seem mostly harmless. So like I said, she just knows her audience really well.
So these are she told to her very inner group.
Yeah. Or like in the very beginning, she would say these things when she would just say all sorts of things. And then now it's like once she got the attention of the New York Times, once she got the attention of all these celebrities, she starts really toning it down.
Wasn't she married to a very successful tech person in the beginning?
They weren't married. They were just dating. And more on him later because he's in a lot of the court documents and we're going to go through the trial in part 2. And the trial is crazy. She was charged in EDNY, which is in Brooklyn. And same time as Diddy's trial, she also is repped by really powerful attorneys. One of them who repped R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein. She would say some crazy shit. She was just straight up victim blaming.
She was testifying?
No, the attorney was just victim blaming through her cross-examinations to the point where the judge was like, hey, so all of you guys are insane. They put like the DOJ symbol and put a swastika over it. Also, the Nicole and Rachel right now are trying to get part of the last pardons of when Trump leaves office this time around. They've been courting a lot of right-wing media sources, and they have connections to who is called the pardon czar, who is like the person closest to Trump that's like in charge of all the pardons, basically. So,
wow,
that's all going to be in part 2.
So she must make a lot of money, right, from hiring all these top attorneys.
Yeah, she cashed out on One Taste before it went down. She sold One Taste to One Taste members who were very wealthy. And at one point, the guy who married the heiress of the Wrigley's chewing gum, like the chewing gum that everybody chews, he was part of One Taste. Like she was attracting a lot of wealthy people. So I'm sure she has a lot of money. And even during the trial, it's just like Diddy. And when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is so odd that it was happening at the same time. She would do the exact same things that Diddy would do. She would turn to her supporters who are filling up the pews and she would put her hand on her chest and like bow at them and like mouth, thank you. Thank you. And I'm like, oh, so they're all the same? Okay. What's happening? She just knows her audience. She knows exactly what to do. If she gets a group of tech investors or tech people that want to join One Taste, okay, so you've got the regular tech dudes who probably are not so great attracting companionship. Remember, like I was talking about earlier, so they pay and they want to see things happen. They want to learn how to attract members of the opposite gender so that they can go on dates. You've got that group. And then you've got the tech bros that just want to see some nasty stuff. And she would cater to them too. She eventually starts hosting priest and priestess of orgasm rituals where, quote, it's described as this. There was this ritual where 7 highest ranking women in One Taste got up on 7 tables on a stage with only black veils on their faces. They were totally unclothed from the head down, which is not an Om thing. Remember Om, you just take down your pants? And then 7 men would come up and stroke the woman. And then every few minutes, they would all rotate. And the 7 men were exalted as important men in the Om community. They were the priests of Om. Usually these guys had plenty of money. That's basically what it is. So it almost becomes like this ritualistic element that I guess a lot of people are into. They also called it magic school. You pay $15,000, and to put it lightly, some people said it's kind of more like a sex party, you know? You watch people become priestess and priests of Om. And those who know Nicole say, you know, ultimately she was a showman. She would also, like, if she thinks you're into this, there was one where they would have snakes. They would bring in snakes, and there would be a lot of women that were naked, and the snakes would just like writhe on their bodies. So really, she caters.
She's doing whatever.
She's doing whatever. If you have money and you sit down, she's doing whatever she thinks that you like.
Right.
But all of this is hidden from mainstream journalists. To them, she just shows spiritual nothings. That's what I want to call it. This is a segment I like to call, do you know what she's talking about? Nicole says, I am of the belief that each one of us has a blueprint inside. What's the purpose of this life? The potential. The purpose of this life first is for you to learn to read your particular blueprint and then develop the courage to live that blueprint. And then you become permission for everyone else to live their blueprint. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, Nicole. She says, so I have a very deep, embedded, clear blueprint. I talk about it. I talk about all the crazy shit with pride in the pride that I have is that is me. And then I'm going to live it out. In no way do I ever want you to believe that's a prescription for you. I'm much more interested in semantics. It's called description versus prescription. I'm much more interested in discovering what's in there than how do you have that, whatever it is. I'm going into a coma. The One Taste website also says, learning to live unconditionally means learning to live without attachments to the form the energy wants to move in. I'm not saying that is conceptually dumb. In fact, it's a beautiful concept derived from Buddhist values. I'm just saying, why would you take something so deep and regurgitate it in a way that is so dumb? Perhaps it exceeds my level of comprehension of the English language, even though I would like to say that I think I have a solid basic grasp. I've been mastering the art of talking for at least 2 decades. A better phrasing could have easily been, living unconditionally means letting go of needing life to look a certain way. Instead, you allow experiences to flow naturally, however they manifest. That's it. Yeah. Okay? Sense has re-entered our brains. And then, of course, there are other things that I guess also just make sense, but it's goofy. The only way to build steady attention in the face of protest is to stay firmly rooted in power. Power is located in the neutral location of sensation between finger and clitoris. We keep that spot open with our attention and relate to the spot, not to the person. We cannot afford to relate to the individual without the mediator of the in-between sensation, or else we will fall into the personal, which appears as doubt in ourselves.
That's crazy.
No, yeah. Those are literally,
Whoa.
I feel like you're having an awakening. He says, English is my primary language now.
Wow.
Yeah, in one article written by Nicole, it's called the Poison to Medicine list, which I guess the whole thing that she's trying to say is go outside and do this. You can get medicine out of poison. It's just like random excerpts. And again, while the general message seems okay, she seems unhinged. She writes, walk into a Safeway supermarket. Imagine that you've entered nirvana. And the name is code for refuge in the world. The great beyond is right there. The guy pricing the Cheerios, he is a deity. The oranges offer the nectar of the gods. The fluorescent lighting is pristine luminosity. You've entered the legendary palace. They've all been there all along, and they are so happy to see you.
It's like a middle schooler writing a fanfic.
Yeah, this is so insane. I don't even know what to say. But somehow it works. Hiding the unhinged and selling spiritual nothings at this point, it's gaining traction. They have a following. Nicole has seduced powerful, wealthy men to support One Taste. They have initially pretty horrendous, non-existent earnings. Even with those non-existent earnings, they have the powerful backers. That's how they open up a yoga studio in San Francisco. That's like the first headquarters. It's a 2-story building, and it looks like, those fancy concrete perfume shops in LA. You walk in, everything is concrete and wood, and then you have a display of like 5 glass bottles, and it's all like $200 sandalwood scented eau de parfums. That's exactly exactly what the space looks like. It's that feeling. It's airy, it's sunny, but then everybody just like gets naked and starts doing it, and then you just hear moaning, radiating and echoing off the concrete walls. Welcome to the One Taste Urban Retreat Center. The grand opening, they have burlesque dancers. Maybe they're like performative, interpretive dancers, because at one point they take off all their clothes and then they just start cutting into it with scissors. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So it's like Sanctum the Club, but also meets Erewhon-esque smoothies and wheatgrass shots, meets a yoga center. Unclothed yoga, Om sessions, poetry nights, workshops, community building events. They would have something called the Temple of Sirens, where it's a night you come in, you pay entrance fee. Female employees are going to dress up in hot outfits. You purchase a ticket at the door and they give you attention. They'll blindfold you, give you a food tasting experience. They have foot washing stations for these women to wash feet, which is kind of biblical, I guess. I don't know. She's like just going on FetLife and looking up the biggest KINKs that exist and just like, let me incorporate them to every single event. They do sushi on a nude woman, but because this is a full-fledged LLC, it doesn't meet the health code. So they had to completely saran wrap her body, which I imagine looks even more sinister looking. So she's like completely saran wrapped, and then they put the sushi on top of the saran wrap. I'm like, that... They have an event called The Joy of Chest, where it's just like hundreds of pictures of chests and topless hostesses walking around, and this booth that you can walk up to where you can quote, come on in and get felt up. So I imagine they have employees that you can feel.
So like these things just attract all the rich tech founders, and
it seems like this attracts the okay earning tech people. The tech founders, it seems like Nicole gets them. And I will say Nicole is charismatic. And I think the thing that Nicole has is probably what Lauren Sanchez has, which is like, I think that's what everyone says about Lauren Sanchez. She's not what people think is the most attractive woman in the world. And they think that Jeff Bezos can have every woman in the world. So why Lauren Sanchez? I think both of them are very good at talking to guys. But not in the like, do whatever you want type of way, I guess. I think that she has some sort of allure with these tech founders.
Yeah.
It's actually, back in the day, they called them courtesans. And I say that because Nicole was very into the idea of being or having modern day courtesans. So back in the day, you have concubines. Concubines are just mistresses. Typically, they came from lower backgrounds. They would just live in a residence where a wealthy man would come in, and you're like a mistress. Your duty is to bear children and be ready for this husband. But you're not like the wife. You're not the one living in the main house and living with jewels and all these things. And then you had courtesans. These women typically came from better backgrounds. They were typically highly educated. They were well informed of the arts, and they were essentially very, very high-end yacht girls, essentially. So they know how to conversate. They know how to go watch a play and talk about Shakespearean ideologies and all these things and have these in-depth conversations with wealthy men. They can be like intellectually stimulating, but ultimately like there is a transaction happening.
Right.
So I think Nicole got a lot of inspiration from that. That's the vibe I get. But Nicole would say, this is why this place is called One Taste. Once you've tasted being inside of yourself and knowing yourself, there is some part of your soul that will always crawl to get back. But how do you make money from that? $10 for a guy to walk in and touch someone's chest and then walk out? You're not going to get massive conversions to even pay for this type of warehouse. Is she only going to sit there and gather all these tech founders and investors? Or is she going to do something else? According to one former member, they had a conversation with Nicole, and they said, quote, I looked at her and I said, you're starting a religion, aren't you? And she goes, yeah, I want to start a religion. But the thing is, you can't sell God. You can get God on Amazon. What I'm selling is sex, because you still can't get that.
What does that mean?
She is going to start using the members. And that is where I leave you with part 1. Because the next step, she's going to up the ante. She's going to victimize the members even further. She's going to get a lot more investors. She's going to start making a lot of money. She's even going to move the headquarters of One Taste right across the street from Uber, Twitter, and Dolby. It's going to get big, and it's going to get bad. That is part 1 of the One Taste cult. What are your thoughts so far? Leave it in the comments. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.